You're listening to the 5 Minute Friday podcast episode of The Aligned Self. This is your host, Daniel J-N-O-V. Okay, 5 Minute Friday, a short and concise podcast episode of The Aligned Self, designed to leave you with a question, an idea, a strategy, a tip, a hack, in order to give you greater access to your conscious awareness, evolving your conscious awareness, or give you greater mastery over your mind. Hello, friend, and welcome into this 5 Minute Friday. And I want to respond to a message I got from Ben. He says, "Hey, Daniel, this may sound unusual, but I've been experiencing too many synchronicities lately." I don't know what too many means, but maybe a lot. And my empathetic and clairvoyant abilities are supercharged. Folks talk about a coming transformation of awareness, and I wonder if others are experiencing the same. Well, the short answer is yes. Now, this is occurring at varying degrees for different people. But this shift in consciousness, this shift in awareness is real. And you may be completely aware of it for yourself. You may be feeling the effects. Or you might just be at the gateway, at the doorway of feeling as if you're waking up, feeling as if you're beginning to question things that you have never questioned before. And more than likely, that question in the back of your mind has led you to this podcast or similar podcasts, similar conversations. Now, we've been moving towards this shift in awareness for decades, probably decidedly so since the 1960s. Now, I am a child of the 60s, and things were fairly rocky then, and spirituality, alternative spiritual pursuits and paths did open up a lot in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even more so recently. We are at a time of accelerating acceleration. The consciousness of the planet is expanding. Our access to intuitive guidance, psychic ability, healing ability is expanding. And a question I get asked, if everything's expanding, if consciousness is awakening up or becoming more available, do I have to do anything? Is there anything that I should be doing? Yes and no. The changes are going to take place whether you participate or not. But just like any ride, the better strapped in you are, the easier it is to maintain your balance, the easier it is to maintain, your seat on the boat. And the more open you are to growing, the more open you are to receiving information and being guided through this process, the smoother it will go for you. Some people, some aspects of the population are going to be kicking and screaming. They're not going to want to shift, not wanting to go and change because, frankly, they like things the way they are. They like to be tied to the material world, to have a sense of consistency. Now, depending on who you listen to, it's been called a lot of different things. It's been called the ascension. It's been called the move to the fifth dimension or the fifth level of consciousness. Essentially, what it means is we're transcending the material world. We're operating more in the etheric, more in the realm of thought. Now, in the material world, cause and effect, like you initiate a cause and it creates effect. Time is more linear. It's all based on Newtonian physics. With the coming shift, this is where quantum physics takes more of a hold on our reality. Now, it's always been there, and there's been some people that have been operating in the fifth dimension and even higher dimensions for a long time. But the majority of the people are couched in the third dimension, material world, where, again, cause and effect. You create a cause which creates an effect. In the upper reaches of consciousness, the way it works out is we create or think of an effect that we want to take place, the end result. And because of our focus, because of our alignment, because of the vibration, and this is all law of attraction, manifesting, it creates a series of events that yield this effect. Now, on even higher regions or higher levels of consciousness, you simply think of something you want to create, and it's manifest instantly. We're not ready for that by and large. But as a species, our consciousness is evolving. So what is it evolving to? Well, it's evolving to a point where telepathy is going to be in greater supply, greater access. You'll be able to read each other's thoughts. We'll be able to communicate via thought and use words less. People will not be able to lie. Institutions, organizations will not be able to lie. People will, those that are awakened will intuitively know, intuitively read the situation. So misperceptions, lies, misdirection will no longer be a thing. And there is a segment of the population that's very afraid of that because they have a lot invested in keeping the wool over our eyes. The other shift that will occur is that we'll have a greater access to our own natural ability to heal, to create a sense of wholeness, a sense of connectedness and integrity in the body and in the mind. We'll be able to see the interruptions in the force, in our dynamic energy field, and be able to make corrections on the fly. And you may have heard of lucid dreaming, where in the dream state, you know you're dreaming and you can adjust and write the dream out exactly the way you want it. Well, life is going to be like that. It's going to be lucid living, where you can make corrections, create the reality. When you see things aren't going to go the way you want, you can just shift it, and reality will be very pliable. Now, there's other things that will be going on, but I'm not going to talk all about that right now. I want to point to the original question. How do I know that I'm part of this ascension, this expansion of consciousness? How do I know, or how can I deal with it if it's going on for me? Well, you know, because you're going to have days, many more days, where you feel energized and then totally fatigued. As energy begins to flow with you and rewire your system, recapitulate the mechanism, you're going to find probably a need to sleep a little more, to rest a little more, nap a little more, have days of complete fatigue, contrasted with days of high energy, high vibe states. And so it becomes a practice of navigating, of maintaining your balance, of being more conscious of your thoughts and how they affect your system and the people and environment around you. The other indicator is that you seem to have a greater awareness of false narratives, that people have been in or are lying to you, misleading you. They have an agenda. And for some reason, you can see it plain as day, and you don't understand why other people don't see it. In fact, it almost feels as if they have their head in the sand, as if they're asleep. Now, this is important. When you can see it and others can't, it's not your job to wake them up. They're not ready. In fact, if someone doesn't want to see something, they will not see it until they reach a point where they are ready, they're capable of maintaining a high vibratory state, a higher level of awareness. See, your job is to elevate your own being, to elevate your own perception. By focusing on your own growth, by focusing on your own development, your own expansion, you naturally make it more available to other people. By elevating yourself, you make it easier for others to be elevated. You'll naturally pull them up to your level just by how you're being on the planet, how you're being in the universe. And so as a consequence, it's more important how you be in the world than what you do. And then because of how you're being, you're going to be called or led towards doing certain things, inspired action. Now, there's an awakening, either just now or has been, a move towards a greater connection to your intuitive guidance. That's why I have a course on it. That's why I've talked about it, because it is such an integral part of you moving into this higher vibrant state, this higher community of aware people, of aware beings. If you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s or above, you may be waking up to the fact that you are more intuitive than you ever thought. Strange powers, strange abilities might just be showing up in your life. If you're younger than that, chances are you were born into the population already pre-wired to a certain degree with empathy and psychic ability and a greater sensitivity to the environment, to sounds, to other stimuli. And most of your life has been trying to manage, all that stimulus. In fact, you may have days where it feels completely oppressive. Like you don't know why you feel so, ugh. It's because you're wide open. You're receiving the energy from the marketplace, from those people out there that are still tied to, still struggling, still in the fear in the three-dimensional world. And this is why it's important to elevate yourself above the cacophony of fear that's being spread. And that's one reason why I did the previous podcast. My wife and I have these conversations all the time. And I've been asking myself, what is my role in this? And it wasn't until just recently that I realized that the whole reason I started this podcast is to help prepare you for the ascension, for the next level. And at the same time, elevate my own consciousness in that pursuit of being a leader, of being, I guess, a wayshower. And I'm at the upper reaches of the population, are ushering in this new wave of consciousness. But I am only one of many. There are many people in this positions of leadership that are propagating or talking about this ascension process, talking about ways to access a greater sense of who you are. And why I've not been concerned greatly with how many people are listening to the podcast or affected by this message. I just know that the people that are resonating with this conversation, resonating with this topic, will show up. They'll find me. And the people that don't resonate with my particular voice, they'll go somewhere else. There's other teachers, because this is not a one-size-fits-all universe. Different people are at different levels, different stages of development, and I have a particular voice, I have a particular point of view, and you either resonate with it or you don't. And if you go somewhere else, I don't feel bad about that. I know that you'll connect. I know that you'll find your people, your kindred spirits. So if you're here, if you found this podcast, if you found this community, you're in the right place. If it resonates with you, stay, subscribe, join the Facebook group, the Aligned Self Podcast Listeners Facebook group. And when it's asked, how did you hear about the podcast? How did you hear about the Facebook group? You say, on the podcast. That way I know you're a listener, that you're invested in this conversation. And just because you subscribe, just because you tune in for now, doesn't mean you have to stay forever. I'll take you as far as you want to, and then you can go somewhere else. But like I've said in previous podcast episodes, I'm just getting started. We're at 140 episodes, and there's a lot more on the docket. I was told once upon a time by a psychic, a channel, back in the early 90s, that I had a lot of work to do. Not that I had a lot of work or a lot of things to make up for, but I came here, I incarnated to do a lot of work, to have a body of work, to do things, to be a source of inspiration. She also told me that I would end up, and I see our lives gravitating towards it, I would end up on a space of healing ground, and people would come visit and live with us. And I see that with a greater sense of clarity than I have in any other point in my life. Probably within the next 1.5 to 3 years, I'll be where I'm going to end up. And my friend, I have to tell you, I don't know exactly what it looks like yet, but you're invited. You're invited to the party. So that's it. That's the end of this episode. And my main message here is, yes, something is going on. There is a shift, and you're probably feeling it. And if you're here listening, you're in the right place. You didn't come here by accident. You're in this conversation, and we're going to have continued conversations to assist you in expanding your awareness and expanding your gifts. And with that said, I do want to make you aware that I have a course. It's called the Intuition Course, and it's available in my online membership. You can go to yesdaniel.com to learn more about it. But everything in the vault, everything in the membership will be designed as things are added to assist you in your expansion, assist you in your growth. So until next time, this is your friend and host, Daniel Denovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals. Be inner directed as you're engaged in the epic adventure.